Hi, I'm David Shearman, host of Politically Speaking. Welcome to Rogers Ontario 2022 election coverage. Today, I'm interviewing Vince Grimaldi, who is the candidate for the new Blue Party, one of the new parties that has appeared on the ballot. And Vince, it's a pleasure to have you here today.
Well, it's nice to meet you, Mark, finally.
Oh, it's David. Mark's the other guy.
David. Oh, Mark's the other guy. Sorry. I'm getting names confused.
Well, actually, I understand completely because just before we started the show, you were telling me that you're out of the Katy market, meeting people?
Yes, we were out there just canvassing, talking to people that are out there, getting their general senses of the last 2 years and what they thought, handing out some stuff and enjoying the market because there was a lot of people out there today.
Yes, Katy market is back in full force, and it's a great place for us politicians and aspiring politicians to spend some time, isn't it?
It is. I don't know if I would call myself a direct, like a career politician or anything, but I seem to connect with people.
Good. Well, when I say aspiring, it means you're running for office and you hope people will elect you. So you have an aspiration to be a politician, which is why you're here. So anyway, I wanted to ask you a couple of questions. Tell us about yourself. You're a new name on the ballot and your party is new. We'll get to that in a minute, but tell us about yourself.
Well, I grew up in Port Colborne. I went to school, got a degree in electronics, and basically ended up in the film and music industry for years. And then after about 10 years, I decided to go out on my own, and I got into upcycling, where we were just taking garbage that people threw away and started making new products with them. Price of tools and stuff like that were really skyrocketing. So we just found alternative ways to do things with basically things that people were throwing away. So I guess in a sense we were contributing to the recycling cycle that's on the go right now.
So you were doing recycling long before it was fashionable, perhaps.
Right. That was I started about 25 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So we were building, you name it. There wasn't anything we didn't tackle, from small to large, from cement mixers to oil sprayers to concrete vibrators, different ways of doing things. So we were pretty creative that way.
So you live here in Bruce Grey Owen Sound then?
I moved here 4 years ago with my partner. Brenda was out of Waterloo, so I got the advantage of Niagara and their marketplaces and the St. Jacobs market. So we had some experience when it came to Katy market today. It was, for us, it was a little different, right? A little different from Niagara and St. Jacobs, but I can see where it works up here. I'd like to see more of it.
Well, to be sure, there's a whole history behind the Katy market. If you ever explore that, I'm sure the people in Katy will tell you how it got its start. But it's a fascinating place, and you can get just about everything you want at Katy market.
Well, today was apparently their opening for their grand opening. So we got there the first day. So it was, they were telling me out in the back field there that usually it's filled.
Mm-hmm.
It was about half filled today. So I'm kind of anxious to go there when it's, in the middle of summer, when it's full fledged. Because there was a lot of stuff there today, from meats to vegetables to clothing, you name it, it was there.
That's
so it
right.
was a good group of people there and a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. So how did you move from upcycling to politics?
I was one of those guys that I kept track of everything, and I actually started with the 2020 election in the States. And it just seemed weird, the way that went out. And I thought, well, and I started voicing my opinion to people that would ask. And I said, well, Dave Hillier came up to me and one day and he says, you got a lot of interesting things to say. I said, well, I think a lot different than most people. I said, I'm not here to argue with anybody. I'm just here to fix things. That's what I've always done. And it seems to me there's a lot of things broken in politics. And when I get on social media and someone asks me questions, I generally just tell them what I think. And I'm amazed at how receptive some of the ideas when I say it are taken. I said, well, they would say to me, well, why wouldn't anybody just do that? I says, well, I think politics is a little more complicated than the average person thinks. There's a lot of things involved and you can say a lot of things, but unless your whole party's behind you, you're not going to get it done. So Dave one day came to the house and he says, why don't you run? I said, well, I have the talking points, but I'm not very good at public speaking. I said, I'm generally pretty brief. I'm used to technical writing. So I'll say things the shortest possible way I can say it. Where in politics, it's in reverse. They'll say it, if you're in a debate, you'll have 2 minutes to answer a question. Well, generally, I don't need 2 minutes to answer a question. But most of them will take up the whole 2 minutes to answer the question. I said, well, that's not me. You ask me a specific question, I'll give you a specific answer. If you want details, come and see me after the debate, and I'll explain anything you want. I'm kind of a little better on one-on-one than I am in a whole room. Unless you throw out numbers and I disagree with the numbers. So basically, he says, well, give it a shot anyway. And I said, well, that's not giving it a shot. That's doing it, isn't it? So I agreed to it. And I said, sure, I'll try it at least once.
Sure. So this is your first time in the political forum, and you're running for MPP here in Bruce Grey Owen Sound.
Right.
And but you're also running with a new party, and the new Blue Party is brand new.
It is.
Like less than about a year old, I think.
2 years. I think
2 years.
They registered it in August of 2020.
Okay.
So they're a registered, basically Jim Kerholis and Belinda Kerholis, husband and wife team. I didn't know much about Jim because I really didn't follow politics a lot. I just knew the issues. And then when Jim came up to talk to me one day, he says, this is what we're about. And he flat out, in layman's terms, said, this is what it is. And I said, well, I could agree to that. I could support that. And he was more family oriented, community oriented, you get God back into schools and that kind of stuff. And I was, the funny thing is, he hit me when he said, we want to take down windmills. And I kind of smiled and I said, you're about the first person that I know that by saying that, I gotta say, you kind of almost had to do your homework on this. And he said, well, we have. And I said, I agree with that only because, and I gave him a reason why. And he says, exactly. He says, not too many people know these kind of things. And from what Dave was telling me, you did that all your life. I says, yeah, I love figuring out free energy and stuff like that. He says, well, what's your opinion on it? I says, we're not ready for it. We're not ready for the costs. We're not ready. There's no infrastructure for it. We can't even recycle most of that stuff. And I said, and I gave him an example, which probably wasn't the best example in the world, because if there was women in the crowd, they would have probably lynched me. But I said, it's true. If you look back from World War II, when women got introduced to the workforce, it was the same deal where society wasn't ready for it. But you can't blame the women because you forced them in factories to work. And then they liked it. They liked that independent. And I said, well, then a whole bunch of things rose from that. I said, so this is kind of like the same deal right now, where you're forcing climate control and you're forcing going green. To me, I see it as a good thing, but we're just not ready for it. Mm-hmm. So he kind of seen it the same way. And then we went into all the other kind of topics and we kind of clicked that way.
So basically you heard what Jim Karahalios was saying and you liked what he said.
Yes. A whole lot. And he said it very briefly, direct to the point. Mm-hmm. And I'm finding out that a lot of people do like that.
Sure.
And I said to Jim, but here's the problem I have. I'm not polished. You're not going to see me with a suit and tie. I'll always wear my hat because I've wore it since I was 10. As long as I can present to people the way I am, I said, I'm not here to get rich. It's not about money for me. It's about people getting along and being happy. Someone, you got to be prosperous here. If you're not, it makes it real tough to wake up in the morning. Right now, people don't have anything to look forward to.
Now, is Jim running himself, or I know I think his wife is also running. He is running.
Yeah. Belinda's running in Cambridge, and Jim's running in Kitchener.
Okay, that's what I thought. What I thought. So, as party leader, he is running. So if the New Blue Party is able to elect, let's say 5 members as a new party, and I'm sure you hope for more. But he would be the party leader.
Yes.
Okay.
So his plate is full because he's got to take care of his riding, plus the 124 of us guys running around representing the rest of Ontario. So he's got a big job to fill. Right
yes,
now.
Because the New Blue Party has a full slate of candidates in every riding right across Ontario, doesn't it?
That's right. I think we're the only party that does. I'm pretty sure anyway. And Belinda is an acting MP right now. So her plate is full as well.
Right.
So I gotta give him credit for at least doing that much.
If I'm not mistaken, she had a falling out with the current premier.
Yes.
And that led to
so did Jim
founding of the New Blue Party.
I think they both did. I'm unclear because I never did ask him that, but I think Belinda got kicked out for something she disagreed with. And then Jim was running for, I think, Mr. Kenny's job. And he was, from what I understood, the person that should have been elected. And some things happened and he didn't get elected, and they both agreed that that wasn't a party for them. So they decided they were going to think about starting their own. But there was, I think, the part with the Ontario party, I never really got into that with him. So him and Derek Sloan had some beef about something, and then he had asked Derek to be, I'm really unclear with that. That's between him and Derek. That has nothing to do with what he's pushing right now. So I'll let them fight that one out. Right now, I like their platform, and I'll just run with their platform because I like it.
Well, I'm looking at the platform right now, and there are a number of key points, and I wondered where are the points that you yourself find a lot of cohesion or sympathy with, or where do you identify with in a party platform? I'm looking at one of the phrases is renew political accountability, defund the establishment media and promote a free press, grow Ontario's economy. Where do you come down on some of these issues yourself?
Well, those are the points I agree on most of them. Like the political accountability. Well, it's not hard to figure out that we've been kind of misled a little bit. So yeah, I mean, politicians, that's their job, is to dance around subjects and stuff. They just danced a little too much this time, and it made it pretty obvious, even for people that don't keep track of politics or don't keep up with it. So someone, like I said, how about a direct answer for a change? Like, I don't know if some of the I know some of our members have watched the Parliament on TV. And if you really watch it, you can only ask a question so many times and you get the same answer so many times, where you say, you know what? You start questioning, what's the Speaker of the House there for? He's like just there to direct traffic, or is he going to get him to answer the question? Or it's wishy-washy. I think that's where we're heading with that. And to me, that makes sense, where people deserve a straight out answer. And that's me. You want to know something, just ask a direct question. I'll give you a direct answer. And if I could explain it to make you understand it, and then I'll do my best to do that. So I totally agree with that. When it comes to defunding the media and all that stuff, well, let's call apples for apples here. They've been kind of, at best, bad at delivering a clear message. So I kind of agree with them there. Well, I totally agree with them there, right? And there's not much to say about that other than that, because I can't even watch the news anymore. It's that bad as far as I'm concerned, unless you're there to pick up the weather or something like that. But if you're going to listen to anything politically, I mean, I don't get TV here. I don't watch TV. Apparently, they didn't even announce that we even were a party on TV. The Blue Party, the New Blue. So they're just saying that it's the NDP, your PCs, and your Liberals. And I said, well, what about the New Blue? What about Ontario Party? And there's a few more out there. And I said, well, how come they don't get any airtime? I mean, they are parties and they have something to say. I mean, at least be somewhat respectable. So that part of it, I totally agree with them on.
What about the economy? Now, you talked about wind turbines, and according to the platform, you hope that this will reduce electricity prices. Explain that a little more.
Growing the economy with the wind turbines. Well, the turbines, I would encourage people to do a little bit of homework with this stuff, because wind turbines right now only work at 40% efficiency. Again, we don't have the infrastructure to run them constantly. I don't know if you've ever went through a wind farm. If there's 10 of them out there, 2 of them are working. The other ones are still. I had questions about the turbines for a lot of reasons. Most of them are made with carbon fiber. We really don't know how to recycle that yet. What do you do? Because they have a shelf life. Okay. So what do we do with them after they're done? That's a lot of responsibility for those farmers that have them on their fields. I don't know if you ever seen one of the pads. Most people say, well, just bury them. Well, you really can't do that. So I said, is that the responsibility of the farmers? Because I don't know, that's 15 yards of concrete. Maybe some of them are 30 yards. That's a lot of concrete to remove. Whose responsibility is that if they don't want them in their fields anymore when they're dead? And whose responsibility is it to take them down? Because if the farmers are going to get 10 years of whatever deal they made with them, I'll guarantee you that'll get used up just getting rid of them. So, and it's in conjunction with the cars. Like if you're going to go green, I love the idea of going green. Okay. It's a great idea. It really is. But again, what do we do? Let's try to do natural evolution here. Let's gradually move into it. It should be a choice. And give our engineers and stuff time to get the infrastructure in place for us to use them. Right now, I think we're opening up a can of worms right now, where we spent 100 years, basically perfecting the combustion engine to the point where they give out very little emissions. And I said, Jim, what about carbon factories? I mean, some of these factories are cleaning almost 1 million tons of carbon out of the air a year. How come we don't have these plants up and running? He says, well, those are things they don't want to talk about. I said, but I do, because we can take that carbon and make products with it. We can make fertilizer with it. We can make all kinds of things. We can generate better plastics with it. I mean, the carbon we can use. He says, I don't know. It's something we're going to have to bring up, because he says, you're probably one of the few people that even know about this stuff. I says, well, I don't have a problem bringing it up. He says, so I said, given the right time frame, we can probably gradually get into going green that way with full electricity and all that. But right now, I just don't, the cost of it is going to kill people. They won't be able to afford it.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's move on to another pillar of the platform, tax relief, where the party platform says cut HST to 10% and axe the carbon tax.
Well, if you look at a barrel of oil, it hasn't changed in 4 or 5 years. You got to wonder why we're paying over $2 a liter at the pumps. If you drop the tax to 10%, people will shop a little more, right? If you can get people to shop a little more, then there's more revenue going around. The carbon tax isn't doing anybody any good right now. To me, it's a money-making idea for one party, especially when there's solutions out there to take care of these things. These aren't pie-in-the-sky ideas. If someone went up and looked it up, you can find everything I said to you, right? You can even name the factories from PCI to Carbon Engineering Limited. These people have been working since 1960 on cleaning the air. But for some reason or another, our establishments don't want to go there. They'd rather spend billions of dollars doing something we're not ready for. And the tax kind of reflects that, because now, from what I can tell, they need money to support everything they're doing, and they just throw a carbon tax in there to generate it. I think people are taxed enough right now. It's time to let them go.
We've got just a few minutes left, Vince, but I did want to ask you, if you're successful in being elected as the MPP for Bruce Grey Owen Sound, how will you represent all of the people in this riding? I mean, it's a big riding. It's fourth biggest in Ontario, I'm told.
Yes. Yeah, you should try to get out to all these places, especially with the gas prices. I encourage people to just come and talk to me. If you don't talk to me, there's no chance of fixing anything. You got to talk to me, tell me the problem, give me some time to come up with a solution. Let me talk to the rest of the party to see if they have solutions. and then basically call you back and say, this is what we're thinking of doing. Do you see that? Now the farmers, the Bruce Gray Federation, we had a chit chat with them, and I said they were bringing up the quotas, whether I agreed with it or not. I said, well, the simplest thing to do is because I like numbers. I said, after they gave me the numbers, I said, well, it seems to me the system is okay. It's just a little geared too much one way. So if we can make it a little fairer for the smaller farmers, well, then it works, right? They all kind of agreed with me. And when I brought up a solution for it, even some of the Christian farmers kind of said to me, you know what, that makes sense. I said, well, if you guys are in agreement with this, if I was able to do something, I was in a position, well, that'd be one of the first things I would fight. I would bring it up to Jim and say, how do I go about this? How do I bring this and make it happen? And then get his direction and go in and fight it.
Mm-hmm.
If it benefits these two groups, then it's going to benefit every farmer in Ontario. And I said, as far as even some of I don't like, because growing Ontario's economy and that kind of goes side and side, because there's some rules I disagree with when it comes to property tax, where some of the bigger corporations like the Catholic Church will buy thousands of acres, get a farmer to farm it, so they get rental for it, yet they're paying what farmers would pay for that land tax. I said, well, when you buy a lot to build a house, generally you have a time frame to start that house. I think something like that should be done, because they're using, good buildable land and sitting on it. Well, most people can't compete with an organization like the Catholic Church.
Well, Vince, I'm going to have to stop you there because we're just about out of time. I want to thank you for the conversation. You've raised some very interesting points, and best wishes to you on election day. Thank you.
It was nice to meet both of you.
And thank you, friends, for being a part of Politically Speaking. I'm David Shearman. We'll talk again.
Cheers.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
Call the Rogers TV viewer response line. Email us or connect with us on social media.
Don't forget to tune in to Great County Life at Home next week.
We're going to be talking to John Farmer about lawn bowling.
Calling all journalism students, Omni Television is once again awarding scholarships to qualified students pursuing a career in third language journalism.
When I found out that I won an Omni scholarship, I